Here we are in Lam Son Square, Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam, and we're going to do an open-top bus tour for a bit of a change. This has only been running through since July, so we thought it'd be quite fun to do. And my daughter Holly is going to join us on here. Say hello, Holly.
Hi.
So let's see how it goes. We're about to do the Saigon City tour, and you can see where it goes. It goes around District 1 and then into District 4 over the canal, along by the river. So we'll enjoy this and see how it goes. So the bus goes at 3. We're just sitting here in the sun for a few minutes, so I'm probably going to be nice and red. But here is the Opera House in all its glory, looking fantastic on Lam Son Square. And we're looking forward to the tour. It's going to do all the major sites in Ho Chi Minh on a beautiful Sunday afternoon. We can see the Continental Hotel to the left, and then the Caravel Hotel here to the right. And looking down Les Anton towards Bentang Market. This has apparently only been running since July, so we're really excited about it. It's a fantastic view up here. Say hi, Holly.
Hi. Apparently only 7 people took this bus in the whole of July.
Really? Well, we're almost beating that record now. So
Yeah.
Beautiful day, probably be pink as salmon by the time we get back, but we're looking forward to it and we're going to take you along for the ride. So we've set off and we're going down Dong Khoi and then turning right towards Win Way or Walking Street. You can see the beautiful old buildings here. Once upon a time would have been apartments, now very commercial. I'm going to let this video run a bit longer than I normally would so that you can skip through it and see sights and sounds of the city as the tour progresses. So here we are on Win Way or Walking Street. You can see the Lotus Fountain to the left and the Saigon People's Committee in front of us, a beautiful building. To the right we have the Opera House where we started this tour from. And as we pass the Saigon People's Committee, you can see beautiful French architecture built in about 1908 with the Rex Hotel to the left of the picture here in front of the Opera House. And as we turn back onto Win Way, you can see what a fantastic vantage this bus gives us on the street. The trees, the view down towards the Saigon River on Win Way, the smart shops on the right. It just highlights what a beautiful city this is from a different angle. So as we come to the bottom of Win Way, we can see the Saigon River in front of us with Tu Duc City or District 2 across the river. Until recently that was all mangrove, but there's been an awful lot of development in the last 5 years. None of those buildings were there 5 years ago. And we turn right and we see the signal mast, which is a landmark for the city. I think it's been there since about 1865, and it's exactly what it says it was. It was a signal mast for the ships to tell them when to dock, etc., etc. But also apparently the locals in the city would use it to see when things were going to be delivered, when boats were coming in, etc. To the left we see a boat which is a restaurant, and we go up over the bridge over what is now a canal but used to be a creek. That canal goes for about 6 or 7 kilometers into the city, and the city is covered by canals. And as we come down off the bridge, we go down into District 4 and we see the water tower in front of us, which is located at the site of the original port on the Saigon River. And you can just see the contrast between the traditional Vietnamese architecture and the new buildings, but it's still a beautiful open city, green spaces, lots of light, many trees, a fantastic place to live. So here we are coming back up over the bridge, over the canal into District 1 from District 4. The building you can see with the helipad is the Texco building, 4th tallest building in Vietnam at 261 metres. The building in front, which is yet to be completed, is the Windsor Tower, and it's been like that for the last 10 years. There doesn't seem to be any work on it. In the far distance, behind the signal mast, you can see Landmark 81, tallest building in Vietnam at 461 metres. I think it's 25 metres taller than the Empire State Building. It's a truly impressive building when you get up close to it, and I've shown it in some other videos. And then in front of that we have the new bridge across the Saigon River. It only opened last month and is beautiful. I think it's 133 metres tall, 900 metres long, and cost about $135 million to build. But this is the heart of historic Ho Chi Minh. You can imagine the tall ships on the Saigon River in the past, the goods being unloaded, the hustle and bustle. But now it's being developed and gentrified, park, etc. So we're coming up to Trang Hung Dao Roundabout on the left, with the new Saigon River taxi on the right to District 2, Thu Duc City. And Trang Hung Dao, here on the statue, was the first king of Vietnam. He united Vietnam and effectively created the Vietnamese nation and the Vietnamese people. So a very important figure to the Vietnamese in history. So now we're coming down Hibertrung, one of the main streets in Vietnam. And on the left here, this white building in front of us is the Park Hyatt Hotel. It does a fantastic Sunday brunch, one of the best hotels in Vietnam, but rather expensive. The park here used to be a car park, but it's been beautifully renovated. And then at the back of it, we have the back of the Opera House. These tall, skinny buildings in Vietnam. I'll talk about why later on. Here we have the Intercontinental Hotel on Hibertrung in Ho Chi Minh. This is where President Obama and his wife stayed when they visited here, I think in 2016. He stayed here because there's a helipad on the roof, and apparently if there was trouble it was very easy to take him out of Ho Chi Minh and to safety. So continuing up Hibertrung, we come to Le Duan, which is one of the main streets in Ho Chi Minh. On the left here in this beautiful villa we can see the French consulate. Style personified, and Le Duan at this end, down the bottom we have the zoo, at the other end we have the Independence Palace, and then next to the French consulate is the American consulate, which is on the original site of the American embassy, where we have those iconic photos and film of people being lifted off at the end of the Vietnam War, 30th of April 1975, in helicopters, and it looks a bit like a fortress, as you can see, but it's hardly surprising. They were given this site back by the Vietnamese government in 1995 when they established diplomatic relations again. On the right we have the British consulate, which in contrast to the beautiful French building and Fortress America looks a little bit like a high school. So as we continue at the end here you can see the Saigon Zoo, and then as we turn left off Le Duan we see some beautiful French architecture contrasted with modern, and on the left here we can see Coman, or the local police, going about their business and keeping the streets moving and free of trouble. As we continue through Ho Chi Minh, this beautiful tree-lined avenue, you can see on the left there is a school. This is fairly typical of Vietnamese schools, although this looks pretty new. Literacy rates in Vietnam are the highest in Southeast Asia, about 96%. And it's mainly because Ho Chi Minh believed that the pen was mightier than the sword, and education was the route to a free and happy society. And here, just along from the American consulate, you can see some old military equipment, closely located to them, I think, on purpose. There is a crashed American aircraft on display, and you see sites like this all over Ho Chi Minh, reminders of the American War, and they use them as education sites now for schools and so on. District 1 in particular has this fantastic mix of old French architecture and new buildings. It's generally fairly low, although in the centre it's very high rise nowadays, and you can see these fantastic wide roads or boulevards. It was laid out on a grid pattern, very well planned. Outside District 1 it's a bit more haphazard, shall we say, which gives the city its character, but these streets here are just beautiful, with big trees and character in virtually every building that you look at. Here we're coming down to Turtle Roundabout, one of the nicest sites in Ho Chi Minh. This is effectively a pond in the middle of a roundabout, very, I suppose, communist style architecture. But if this was in London or somewhere, it would probably be fenced off. I mean, maybe the equivalent of Trafalgar Square. But you can see beautiful walkways across the pond. You can go on those, no problem. No one will be jumping in and being stupid. And it's just a tranquil place, a cool place in the middle of very hot Ho Chi Minh. Here we have the world-famous War Remnants Museum cataloguing the Vietnamese-American War. Very, very hard to go in there and not be affected by it. Holly used to volunteer at an orphanage for disabled children here, and when she went to the War Remnants Museum, she saw the photos of the orphans that she was caring for it from the orphanage up on the walls, and she only then realised that they were in this orphanage and disabled because of the effects of Agent Orange, which was sprayed all over the country to deforest it. And even 3 or 4 generations later, 40 years after the end of the war, it is still having an effect on society and the people here in Vietnam. You cannot get away from what happened 40 years ago. There are many extravagant Catholic churches in Ho Chi Minh and the surrounding countryside. There are about 8 million practicing Catholics in Vietnam out of a population of 95 million. The other 2 main religions are obviously Buddhism, and also a religion called Cao Dai, which is specific to Vietnam, was invented in, I think, the early 1920s, where basically people took all the bits of the religions, other religions that they really liked, and put them together into Cao Daism. There are many parks in Ho Chi Minh, beautiful green spaces, and if you come out early in the morning, 6 a.m, you'll see many people practicing Tai Chi or badminton or all of these exercises, which during the day are just too hot to do, but in the morning and in the evening, these parks are well used. I mentioned before there are many narrow, tall buildings in Vietnam and Ho Chi Minh, and the reason is that before all the development of the buildings and so on, they were fields, and these fields were all 30 metres or 35 metres by about 5 metres, and the idea was that this was what a family needed in order to survive on a subsistence farm, 5 metres by 30 metres. So then when the buildings have been created and the city has grown up, these plots of land have been sold at 5 metres by 30 metres, and then people have built buildings on these of those dimensions. So when you go around Ho Chi Minh and you see these narrow, tall buildings of standard 5 metre sizes, that is why, because of the subsistence farming of ancient times. So here we are coming around Ben Thanh Roundabout with Ben Thanh Market. I did a separate video on this previously. Here's Ben Thanh Market. The reason this roundabout looks such a mess is because they built a huge metro station under it for the new metro, and they're just finishing that off right now. And in front of us here we see the New World Hotel, and then we turn right down yet another characterful, beautiful Ho Chi Minh Street. You can see the old building on the right with the apartments in it, the narrow buildings on the left, which are 5 metres or multiples of 5 metres. And then here we have a temple, elaborately decorated. These are common throughout Ho Chi Minh, fairly closed spaces. You take your shoes off when you go inside, and they're very tranquil and cool places where you can contemplate the world. So this is Trung Din Street, probably my favourite street in Ho Chi Minh. It leads down to this enormous park with these beautiful ancient trees. And I think it reminds me of Game of Thrones. I think it would be fantastic for a sort of Game of Thrones set or something like that. But you can see the park on the right, the park on the left. It's just a magical place in Ho Chi Minh. And if you get a chance to come down Trung Din Street and have a look, I would highly advise it. Spend some time here. You get to feel the culture and the people when you come to this park. It's just amazing. So now on the right we have the gardens of the Independence Palace, which used to be the seat of the southern Vietnamese government during the American War. The president and his family lived here. The building was completed in 1966. And on the left we have the beautiful old buildings of the French colonial period, which would have been the government buildings, because at the time the Independence Palace was the governor's mansion. So the governor would have been running Vietnam from the mansion, and the administration would have been in these French buildings here. It's just a fabulous part of Ho Chi Minh, right in the centre, and anyone who comes to Ho Chi Minh will need to spend time here. And then as we come down the front of the Independence Palace, you can see into the gardens. If you look very carefully where I zoom in, there are some tanks here, and these tanks, supposedly they may be the originals, they may not, are the 2 tanks that ended the Vietnamese War. So on the 30th of April at 10:45 a.m, a tank burst through the gates of the Independence Palace, pointed its gun at the presidential palace there that you see, and the war ended. The government surrendered, and at that moment we have those iconic images of the Americans lifting people off the what is now American consulate, but it was the site of the American embassy. And we come back down onto Le Duan, down towards the embassies and towards the cathedral. So here we see Notre Dame Cathedral, built in, I believe, 1896 or completed then, obviously now being renovated, and it was modelled on the original Notre Dame in Paris. And we come back onto Don Coy, down towards Lam Son Square, with the People's Committee of District 1 on the left, and as our tour comes to an end, we can see the beautiful skyline of Ho Chi Minh, with the modern Vincom Centre on the left, which is shopping and accommodation and offices. And I really hope you've enjoyed this tour. I've certainly enjoyed the tour, and I hope it's given you a feel for Ho Chi Minh and the variety of architecture, the culture and the history which has just come together to make a truly beautiful city. And as we progress up towards Lam Son Square, you can see the Continental Hotel on the left. You can see the Caravel Hotel with the world-famous Saigon Bar coming into view straight ahead of us. And to the left there is the Opera House, the centre of Ho Chi Minh. I really thank you for watching my videos. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to making more for you. Thank you very much. If any of you would like to subscribe and see more of my videos, I would really appreciate your support. Thank you.